Oh, there we go. Okay, how to get a job in astronomy. Something which is close to the heart of several people in this room. So, first of all, the 3 Ps. And Nick's already guessed them.
Is it like the 3 Ls in real estate?
Yeah, well, it's very similar. You may notice some similarity. Okay, so the important, if you're applying for jobs, first thing is make sure you've got something under your belt. You can demonstrate that you've done some good work. And when you publish, make sure the publications. Oh, I should give an introduction. So I haven't applied for a job for at least 2 decades. So I'm totally forgotten about that side of it, but I've spent a lot of time sitting on the other side, reviewing applications, being on interview panels. So this is a perspective from somebody on the other side. And so when first thing, if we advertise a job in the CRO, we'll maybe get 50 applicants or maybe even more. And first thing you do is you want to whittle it down to a manageable size. And so what we typically do, we have a number of criteria, like how many papers they published, and you get that, use that to get them down to a reasonable size. First thing you look at is how many first author papers people have published. Now, other papers are useful if you're 10th author on one of Miroslav's 30 papers. That's good, but it's not as good as being first author. And if you want to go for a named research postdoc, that's on the top level positions, like a Bolton Fellowship, you need 3 to 4 good first author papers. If you don't have something like that, there's probably no point in applying. That's for something like a Bolton Fellowship. Now there's levels below that, many levels below that. So I'm not saying you need 3 to 4 good first author papers before you can get a job in astronomy. But if you want to aim at the top, that's where you need to be. You definitely need at least 1 or 2 first author papers. But I'll come on to the different sorts of job in a minute. The other thing you can do while you're a student is make yourself part of the community, advertise yourself, be aware of what's happening, go to conferences, talk to, ask questions, go to colloquia. You can give a talk at a conference, that's really good. So by the time you start applying for jobs, it'd be good if some of the people on the panel already know your name. Sign up to be an 18F student. Miroslav mentioned that earlier. That's a good thing for students to do. If you sign up to be an 18F student, that will give you contact with some really good scientists. Again, means your name gets known. It means you get some funding to go to conferences. And it will give you, actually they're reviewing the program at the moment, but it may get you some training in using telescopes and telescopes. There's a good opportunity for people in this room to join EMU and POSSUM papers. Again, that gets you known, but you've got to be able to contribute to it. Don't just do it willy-nilly. It's just a waste of your time because you've got to get a thesis written, get your own papers written. But if you can contribute to some of the EMU POSSUM papers, you see a paper, you say, hey, that's interesting. It's a bit like what I'm working on. Maybe I can add a few thoughts to that. That's a really good idea. And again, it gets you known. Sorry, this is meant to be a discussion, not a lecture. Nick, Miroslav, Luke, do you want to, anybody?
Yes.
Add to any of that?
Yes. I'm not sure if I agree or disagree, but let me, because I've heard this type of talks from others. The famous Nobel Prize winner from ANU would say that if you really want a job in astronomy after the PhD, you would need to publish about 3 first authors papers per year. I never did that. Probably this year is my first year in my career that I will have a 3 first author.
I think he's talking about further down the track. At the end of your PhD, you're doing well to get 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm talking about people at the end of their PhD, really.
Yes. So for to get a prominent Australian DECRA fellowship, you would need very close to that number.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah. Yeah.
And that will be probably, so the DECRA is between 1 and 5 years since the PhD. So if you're going to go with the 3 papers or 4 papers from your PhD, and if it's a first year, if it's an exciting project, that may give you a score. So the chances to get the DECRA is 1 in 10, 12% at the moment.
Yeah, so these make a general comment about the number. Often, I've just said, you get 50 people applying for a CSIRO postdoc for like the Bolton. And I'd say a large fraction of those really don't have a hope in hell. You get lots of people applying for everything, and they're the dross that you clear. So I should be rude to people.
Noise.
But you clear out those people at the beginning, then you look at the serious candidates, and you might get 10 good candidates that you'll actually look at, but actually, and you think, God, that's only 1 in 10. What's my chance of getting a job? Actually, those 10 people applying for a lot of jobs.
They're all applying for 10 jobs.
They're all applying for 10 jobs. And actually, those good people, most of them will end up getting a job. So don't be put off by the numbers. And the same thing goes for DECRA as well. DECRA is a bit harder.
Yeah, I should point out that my first postdoc, I was the second pick, and the first pick got a better job.
Yeah.
And
that's
so,
also
yeah, you don't have to be the best person in the room necessarily.
Yeah.
So,
that's a very good point. And by the way,
actually, I think all of my postdocs, I was the second pick.
so
Exactly, that was my point. Yes.
Wrong with it.
I also say you don't necessarily want to be the best person. I'll talk about support jobs in a minute. If you're applying for a particular job, the job of the review panel is not to pick the best person, because that person might actually be overqualified, for example, for the job. They're looking for the person who's the best match to the job, who's going to do the job the best, and that won't necessarily be the best person. So I'll say more about this in a second, when you're writing an application, don't just sell yourself willy-nilly. Look at the job, look at what they're asking for, and emphasize how you fit into that job. Any other comments, Luke? Lawrence? Anybody?
I'm pretty sure I was second on a couple of mine as well. It helps to be part of it, like as a theorist, it helped me that I was part of some observational teams. So you showed that you can come into an existing sort of team and contribute there. That helped me a lot. Yeah.
There's one more point which I think is very important. There are 3 types of postdocs. One that you will win through the grants. There is one which is a general, a very big, famous, like a Jansky, ATNF type of fellowships. And then there are specific jobs type of postdocs, very specific jobs where a given prof, wherever, got some grant money to employ you for 2 years, to do a very specific jobs, which you have to work on that job. Again, that's very much the way how you're going to pitch yourself, in these applications. So yeah, that's the 3 that I can isolate.
It's a very good point. Yeah. So when I was with CSI, I suspect the majority of the jobs I was interviewing were in that last category. Like when we got EMU going, I had some money to hire some postdocs for EMU, and got some really good applicants. And I've decided not to mention names because you'll remember, but even though people are really good, there's the person we actually chose for one job has got one guy who maybe wasn't the most academically gifted. He was so perfect for that particular job. He knew all about aperture synthesis. He was passionate about it. He was passionate about the algorithms. I thought he probably gets to it now. And he actually ended up doing a really good job for EMU. And that was one of my best selections, I think. And he wasn't the best ranked applicant in a conventional sense. Okay, so back to applying for jobs. Choose your job applications carefully. So if you've only got one paper out of your PhD, there's probably no point applying for a Hubble Fellowship. So you need to be a bit picky. So it's very demoralizing if you keep on aiming too high. On the other hand, it's good to be ambitious. And also it's good to apply for a few jobs to get the experience. First time you go for an interview, it's terrifying. Second time, slightly less terrifying. Third time, slightly less terrifying. So it's good to get to a few before you actually get your first job. And don't expect to get the first job you apply for, obviously.
Do you mind if I make another
Sure.
point? I'm honored to examine a large number of applications, fellowship applications, such as ARC, DECRA fellowship. There is one particular fellowship application where a candidate published one first author papers and a less than handful second, third, fourth, whatever author papers. A very poor outcome. No one sits Hirsch index to very poor numbers, but a phenomenal project. So, and coming from a very prominent institution in Australia, phenomenal project in terms of, wow, this is exactly, right thing to do. So you have a candidate who did not show any excellence, but there is a phenomenal idea. So in these cases, if you guys are with a phenomenal idea, make sure it's your idea, not someone else's idea, okay? Ray already knows, why I'm saying this. You can easily find out that, are you instructed or not? Are you part of the game, of a given institution or not? So be yourself. I think that's the first point. Be realistic. That is sorry, I have to put this in perspective of an example here. So being realistic is most important thing, where you're up to, and keep going. Actually,
and be yourself. That's another. Yeah. And all the way through that.
Do not pretend, well, I can do this job. Yes, you can. Everyone can do it.
Yeah. Yeah. So going back to the example of the guy I had for EMU, be yourself. He bored the pants off the referee panel, I would say. He went on and on about these bloody algorithms.
I'm so glad you asked me that question. Nobody's asked me that question before.
He came over so
Luckily, I have slides.
We couldn't stop him talking. But he was so passionate about it. He was made for this job, anyway.
But you mind, let's actually ask Velibor and Rami, who are actually, going through this process at the moment. Maybe it's too early to call you guys now to talk, any comments on all this? Easy for us to talk about that, but
yeah, I think Velibor, maybe you got many interviews. I didn't get any interview, to be honest.
But you got the job.
I got the job. Without any interview, that's the problem.
So I've been on several interviews, I think 5 or 6, and unluckily I ended up second on most of them, but I didn't get a position.
Sorry.
So I think every interview went well, as like I presented my research. I had 2 published papers. I still have 2 published papers. On some positions, I think I wasn't the best qualified, like in what I did compared to where I applied, but still I got the interview. And somewhere where I was thinking, oh, this is position made for me, like I fit every criteria, even the desired ones, I wasn't even interviewed. It's strange. I don't know.
There's also a lot of luck involved. You have to recognise that these processes don't always, or actually rarely work properly, and there's a lot. You have to be lucky as well. Actually, I should write that down there somewhere. Get lucky. Is one of the main things.
Yeah, I got lucky.
Also, another interesting. What I noticed is whenever I apply through like official university portal or whatever, there's a portal that you apply through, I didn't get an interview. Like I didn't get even a feedback, like just rejection, whatever. But if I apply through an email or to a person somehow that is directly going to the person, there was either a detailed response or I got the interview. So that's, I don't know why, but.
Well, presumably the people who did it through a portal still hired somebody. So maybe that's sending you a message. You need to think about how you apply for those jobs. Are you sending them the right information? Are you selling yourself enough?
The portals may go through automatic screening.
Yeah. So you've got to think about how do I get through that screening process? And I'll say more about that in a minute, actually.
Yeah.
Can I just say something, Ray? That a tip
Sure.
that you gave me for a couple of SKAO jobs. A position I went for was in really low frequency. It was MWA, and I'd not operated in that 100 megahertz, 200 megahertz regime. The one thing Ray said to me was, what have you, where are your skills that you have done at gigahertz? How do they apply to that low frequency stuff? And I actually spoke to Tim Galvin before the interview as well, and he said the same thing, like, identify your skills. I don't know if you said it, Ray, because I'm kind of doing a couple of things at once while I'm listening. Where's that relationship between what you're doing and how you can apply that to that position that you're going for?
Yeah.
And then you'll be able to just rattle that off in the interview.
Yeah, that's
Okay. Sorry, that was a tip that you gave me that worked really well.
yeah, I think that's important. And the other thing he says is be able to rattle it off. So all this stuff you want to think about hard in advance. You don't want to get floored by a question in the interview. You want to have thought of all the questions beforehand. Okay, read the ad carefully. This is one of my things on the CSO panels. You often ask for a CV, a cover letter, and a research plan, and people have got to address the criteria. So there's 4 things. And I'd say half the applicants don't address all 4 of those. They'll address, and so they're immediately out of it. If we don't have those 4 things, they're not going to be ranked. On there, and don't send documents there. Sometimes people send a research plan when it's actually a support position. Probably doesn't really do any harm, but selection criteria is a hard one. CSIRO jobs tend to have listed selection. I don't know whether it's still true. Certainly when I was doing it, they did. And they ask you to address the selection criteria explicitly.
About CSIRO, but university ones will.
And they'll have like 10 or so criteria. And some people don't address them or address them implicitly, but you have to be aware that on the spreadsheet where we're whittling away all the dross, first thing we do is, do they address these criteria? You've got the criteria there, 10 rows on the Excel spreadsheet, and you write a score against them. To give you a really stupid example, there's often a question like, applicants must be committed to the principles of diversity. How many of us actually can demonstrate that we're committed to the principles of diversity? Very few. But people who said something like the okay answer, I'm strongly committed to the principle of diversity, and apply that to all my dealings with colleagues. There's total wishy-washy words, but at least you said something, you get a tick. If you don't say anything at all, you don't get a tick, you get a 0. If you actually can demonstrate something, that you belong to the ASA diversity chapter, hint, hint, good thing to join, and chair of Student Diversity Council, and sign your email with pronouns, then you could probably get 2 ticks.
It's just kind of underlining the basic principle is when I was young and foolish, as opposed to being old and foolish, I thought that if you had a set of bullet point criteria, and it's a really boring list, I thought, I'm not going to just do it bullet point by bullet point because that's boring and that'll be everything. I'm so awesome that I can write a beautiful piece of prose, which will make everybody not only tick all the boxes, but also be blown away by my awesomeness and beg me to take a job. Okay, that wasn't quite the words I used in my head, but that was kind of the vibe. Yeah. And that is wrong. That is a terrible idea because you've got many, many applications and you don't got a lot of time and you do not have time for deathless prose. You have time for in order, do not mix up the order, tick, 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 tick. Nice, move on.
Yep.
They're through to the next step, as opposed to, did they answer that or not? Whatever.
Yeah, buried in your cover letter might be the statement that I'm a member of the ASA diversity chapter or something. But I won't see that because I'm skimming through these 50 applications.
You want the dot point for every dot point they give you.
Make it easy for the examiner, referee, whatever.
Make it easy on them.
Yeah.
I also need to intervene here very briefly, if you don't mind. We've just heard Velibor's experience so many job applications where I came second. I have that same experience a long time ago. All the time I'm coming as a second. But this may be a controversial, but I'm going to still say it. I think, there is a good portion of jobs where the people have already leading even before the job is advertised. And then, they just got surprised by you or whoever else, and then, they have to stick, with a whoever they had on their mind. So I've seen a lot of these, and I can, say that there are a lot of these. How to recognize that that is the case, so you don't need to waste your time. That's again, another piece of art, because each of these applications, and I'm sure that Ray, you will agree with me, takes a huge amount of time to address this properly. So I would say probably one research paper is, well, close to one research paper is equal if you're going to apply for a job, for one job position. Well, actually, Velibor, you can tell us.
Well, once you've got pretty much, I apply on multiple positions, so I kind of recycle my applications, right? So you don't write from start, but okay. I recently looked at my first application and on which I got the interview. And I'm like, how did I get the interview with this application?
Yeah,
But yeah,
that's why you need to apply for a few. You get better at it.
Yeah, so it takes less time as you write more application because you can use bits and pieces, but yeah.
It's interesting what you said about often they already have a candidate lined up. In my experience in CSIRO, that's relatively rare. Often there is a good candidate, but the process that I've been in have actually been open, genuinely open. And if we find, I won't mention any names, but there have been occasions when we thought we had a really good candidate, but there's absolutely brilliant person from outside applies, and there's just no way the internal person's going to get it. This person from outside is obviously so much better, and but that may, and also the ethos in CSIRO is maybe a bit different from many university departments in that we try to encourage a lot of external people coming through, and that's basically the approach. Whereas that's not necessarily true in university departments. Anyway, any other comments?
I would like to give my humble tip, being the advocate of ethical AI. It's always good if you put your resume in ChatGPT or whatever model you're using and ask with the job ad what is missing. So that's always a good way of checking what else need to be added.
Yep, that's a good idea. Yeah, obviously don't use ChatGPT to write your CV or whatever. It'll come out awful. But
I'll just add to what Hina said and something you said before, Ray. The automatic filtering by HR departments now, if you know which platform the recruiter is using, so currently Western they've switched to Smart Recruit, I think. They use specific algorithms. So if you write your cover letter and resume and put it in and ask it, tell it what you're applying for, it will know which algorithms they use, and it can tick those boxes to say, yes, you're answering that question, and that will get through that filter.
oh, that's not bad. I couldn't possibly comment on that.
That'll get you through the first step.
All right, that's good.
And then it's up to obviously your interview
I
skills.
realize that you didn't realize you could do that. All right.
Oh, it's horrendous because if you don't put the certain words in there, you won't get through the first step. They just kick you out, and you could just be missing out on an opportunity for an interview.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, carry on.
Right. Write your CV. So I've seen some people write a CV where they list, what their degree is in, maybe what their grades were, their PhD, a couple of things, and that's it. It's about half a page. And you really don't want to do that. If I'm looking at someone's CV, I want to get a feel for what sort of person they are as well. So it doesn't have to be formal. It's not like a formal CV is where you do just read this your qualifications, But you can say, I'm secretary of the Student Tennis Club, or I'm expert at coding Python. And I'm surprised people who I know really are experts at coding Python, but they don't actually say that anywhere in their application. And you really need to sell your strengths. I've also seen ones, don't go over the top. If you look up at Google how to write a CV, you'll sometimes see examples that are absolutely awful. I am the person you're looking for, which is a complete turn off for most people. It might work if you're applying for a car salesman job or something, but doesn't work if you're applying for a postdoc. So you don't want to have on these stupid over the top CVs or applications, but you do want to sell yourself. And show your CV to your fellow students and your supervisor after suggestions. As Hina said, yeah, show it to ChatGPT as well, and try to think anything you've missed out.
Just with that, what I used to do, and kind of still do actually, because people still ask for a CV sometimes, is always maintain your CV basically all the time. So even if you're not planning to be in the market for another year or two, you should always be updating your CV on a regular basis. And part of that is just then that way, the things that are fresh in your mind that you've been doing the last couple of months, you can say, can I turn that into a bullet point? Have I done something new? Or am I doing the same stuff?
Yeah.
Whereas if you kind of wait for 2 years, then you'll forget the stuff you did 18 months ago, which might actually be a good bullet point.
Yeah.
So keep a CV. What I usually do is keep basically a master CV, which is horrendously long. And then for any time I need a CV, which still does happen, I then select out the parts of it. So I just crunch it down to the bits that are useful, but try to maintain it, because that way it's ready when you need it. It's ready to go, rather than running around for three days going, oh my God, what did I do 2 years ago? I'm sure
Yeah.
I was doing something. So, and then dump everything in there.
Yeah.
And then you can edit it out. That was what I used to do, and I used to do it much more assiduously, because when I knew I was going to be out of work in 2 years' time. Now I'm a bit more slack.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I should have said include any committees you're on or anything like that as well.
Yeah.
Again, I do have a comment from the perspective of someone reading the CVs of potential candidates. For me, the CV is just a starting point, which I don't trust. That's for me. What I want to do is I want to do my own investigation on a candidates, or at least top 5 candidates. And then it's going back to Ray's first slide, publish, publish, and publish. That's where I get close to the applicant, understanding what he or she actually can do. Looking into the papers, they tell me more about the candidates than the CV. Am I interested about being a secretary of the Student Tennis Club? Yeah, fine. I don't mind. But I am far more interested to see, can you handle the whatever research science-wise?
Yeah.
So again, going back to publish, publish, and publish.
Yeah, but that in itself, I don't think is enough. You want to, I find I want to think, is this person going to join in with the group? Are they going to fit in?
Yeah.
Are they going to be an active member of our community? Things like that. Any other comments?
Like I see many PhD, they got their job without, they have one paper published, but they got the job.
Sometimes happens.
Yes, there are a lot of reasons for that. One of the reasons is you are in a hot, field, right? In a group which hires, right, which needs, all that. That's on a very positive way. Actually, I apologize, Ray. I think first slide before the publish should be there are no jobs in astronomy. Which of course is not. There are a few.
Asterisk to first order.
It's the first order, exactly, right? So, and the Ray said that, one of the missing word in slides so far is a luck, okay? And the luck plays, field, someone told me actually talking about the field, that the field which has a far less interest than any other field in astrophysics is a planetary nebulous. There are no jobs, for people outside of the Quentin Parker's, internal circles, his minions to work on a planet. It's just simply statistically, someone told me that there are no jobs in that specific area.
See it.
And,
dropping out.
But there are fields such as gravitational waves, which they hire big time. Top 5 Hersch index scientists, astrophysicists in this country, all 5 of them are in gravitational waves.
You were going to say planetary nebulae.
No. Okay, so it's a hot field, right? So how are you going to compare that field with someone else, some other field? That's on a bigger picture.
Can I make another point? I think I had a bullet point, but I must have skipped over it. Is that about jobs in astronomy? Very few jobs in astronomy. Things like the Bolton Fellowship are just jobs in astronomy, but there's many, many more positions like the SKA positions, which are basically support positions. You've got a job, it's to help build the SKA, or a job where it's computer support and things like that. And for those ones, they'll be looking, but in an astronomy group. So like, let's say there's ACNF, they want somebody to help maintain user software, astronomy user software. They want somebody who's had experience with using Myriad or CASA or something. So they someone who's got a PhD in astronomy, but someone who's good at coding. And there, the coding skills are probably at least as important, maybe more important than how many papers you publish. So you've got one paper out, that's maybe fine. And you shouldn't look down your nose at support roles. And I was just thinking, people I know, like Phil Diamond, Director General of the SKA, Tony Beasley, Director of NRAO, Douglas Buck, Director of ACNF, all of those at some point have probably for the first postdoc was actually a support job. It wasn't a pure astronomy job. So many people, at one point I used to run the computer group at Radio Physics, God knows how. But yeah, most people at some point they've done a support job as well. So don't turn your nose up at those.
And I think with those, it's as when I was looking at support jobs, and yeah, my South Pole job was basically a support job. There were a lot of quite small telescopes around. So being a support astronomer at something like Beamer or OVRO or somewhere like that was kind of a very generalist position, and so the whole thing was pretty loosey-goosey, or it could be. Now more and more organizations are big, they're highly structured. SKA is going to be a bureaucratic behemoth because it has to be, not in a bad way. Well, maybe. ALMA already is, all of these things. So, being able to demonstrate, because one thing that everybody kind of knows is that being able to publish a bunch of really good first author publications is somewhat orthogonal to actually working in a large organization and making stuff happen in a large organization, which involves committees, it involves running tickets, it involves all of this stuff that you don't do for a paper. So it's worth, if that may be in your wheelhouse, it's worth thinking about how are you going to demonstrate that, because your papers probably aren't going to demonstrate it unless you've run a 50 author collaboration to actually get a paper across the line, in which case maybe they do. But you want to think about, how do I show that I can walk into a large organization and I'm going to get stuff done. Because that's not always a core strength for academics. And if you can walk into an interview and demonstrate that, I can write papers, I can do the work, but I can also keep everybody on track. I can manage a project. I know, this is how I manage my stuff. I'm happy to hear about other systems. If you can do stuff like that, that's going to be something where people are going to look at you and go, okay, I can see how we can fit you in.
That's a very good point.
And that gets you, that may not get you the job, but it'll get you several spots up. Because everybody knows, anybody in a big organization knows of the people who were very academically promising, could publish the papers, and then once they were in a sport job, they became a black hole. of negative productivity because everybody asks them to do things and nothing gets done. So, you know, it's and that's a seismic shift in the field that's been going on for the whole of my career, but is getting much more pointy now with SKA ESO. Oh my goodness, ESO. I mean, ESO advertised for document control specialists, which is like, people whose job it is to make sure that the operating procedure for subsystem X on instrument Y on telescope Z is up to date and is the right one and is not the one from 3 years ago.
I need to
Those are
make another
jobs.
point. There are jobs which actually no one wants. And you will find that, you know, you will immediately get an offer. These jobs, almost without a competition.
Like what's a job?
I'll give you an example.
Winter over at the South Pole.
Well, Rami, you know, you can talk about one job that you had, you know, get offered and basically almost signed in South Africa. It's a very remote university in South Africa. Everyone, you know, is escaping. I got a job offer in American Virgin Islands. Okay. And I was lucky enough to go there and have a look at with my own eyes. Said, yes, there is a reason, you know, why finally, you know, I got a job offer after 57, you know, being in second place. So yes, there are jobs actually which no one wants. Please, you know, be aware of those. That's the point here.
It's 12 minutes past. Should we keep going or should we?
Well, we do
stop?
have a reserve this hour for students to talk about various things. So please continue if you still have a time.
If you need to go, go, but otherwise.
Okay, often, not always, you have to write a cover letter. These are things that they seem obvious, but people don't always do them. Express enthusiasm for the job. People often, I'd say more often than not, don't have any sentence like that they actually want this job. They're excited to do it. And then you want to show that you actually have read about it, you know what the job is, or the group is, or what the organization is. There's nothing worse than somebody writing a job saying, when I'm at CSIO, saying, I want to join your company. I'm not the company. Yeah, they've copied it from somewhere.
Come on, that's easy next. Just
Yeah, that's right. And show that you've got relevant experience. So it's pretty well what Pete was saying, that you may not be a low frequency astronomer, but you may have skills that will apply to low frequency astronomy. Okay, anything else that you need to include in your cover letter? If you need to write a research plan, so this is more like Bolton fellowships and things, this is going to be if you get into the shortlist, this is the thing that will make the real that will make them decide to take you rather than somebody else. So this is the thing where you really want to work on it. Think of it being like writing a paper. Firstly, it's got to be credible, and it's got to work. Don't make stuff up. It's going to be a lot of work to make a good research plan. Discuss it with your supervisory colleagues. People often do an extension of their PhD work, which is a good thing to do because you already know the field, and you need to check the literature. But this is fairly obvious. But the main point is, first line, it's going to take you a couple of weeks to do a good one. Think of it as being like writing a paper. Right, picking referees. I've been asked to write referees for people I barely know. And I say no. I can't write a referee someday I don't know. So pick them and tell them, ask them. I've also received an inquiry from some university. Can you write a referee for X? X, do I know that person? Oh yeah, I vaguely know them. They never asked me to write a referee. So I write back to the university and say, no, I can't. And that looks really bad on the person. If somebody says, no, they don't want to write you a reference. So you really need to check with your referees first. Make sure that at least one referee is familiar. So if you've done some teaching, you might ask Miroslav, talk about your research, find whoever's involved in your teaching and get them to write your referee as well. And same thing, get from different stages, ask the referees before nominating them. Send referees all the information. So you may not, if I'm writing a referee for somebody, it's not just saying the last reference I wrote and making a copy and change a copy. I'll actually I'll spend maybe an hour or two on it because I want that person to get that job. And I need all the information possible. I need to say what they've said in their application. I can support that. They said they're good at coding. I'll say, hey, they're really good at coding. Or if they've forgotten to say they're good at coding, I will still say they're really good at coding. And so your referee, assuming it's somebody who likes you, will be working hard to write you a good reference. So give them all the information they need. And also if it's a job that's about teaching or helping users, the referee needs to be able to say, oh, this person's really good at working with users or helps his fellow students or whatever. And so send them all the information and look out for emails. Because your referee may say, yes, I can send that, but then you send it to them when they're away. Okay, right, getting towards the interview. You've been asked to interview. If possible, it's really going to find out who's going to be interviewing you. Often you don't know and you can't do much about it. But if you can, find out who it is, find out what they've done, find out what papers they've written, what they're famous for. So if something comes up, you know where they're coming from. When you go into the interview, you really need to know all about the job, about the institution. So you need to spend some time. I've interviewed people who really don't know what CSIRO is. And they say, are you a university? That's a really stupid question to ask. You should have already researched that. Try to think what questions you'd like to be asked. That can be hard. Some of them are going to be obvious if the job is to do a particular thing, support SKA, then obviously going to be asked questions about SKA and about census astronomy or whatever. But there'll also be questions like, I thought I wrote it down. What's your strengths and weaknesses? Oh, I've got it in the next slide, I think. What's your strengths and weaknesses? And that's a really common question to be asked in interviews. And actually, if you Google it, you'll find a whole load of questions like that, and you prepare answers for it. And a mock interview is really helpful thing to do. Get some of your fellow students to interview you, give them some questions you think you're likely to be asked, and you can practice answering them. Anything else?
And let's not forget that if you get an interview, at least in Australia, they have to ask the same questions they ask you other candidates as well. Exactly the same questions. So, yeah, it's not going to be a specific question just tailored for you most of the time. I think that's now against the.
Well, what you can do is you can tailor the follow-up.
Yeah.
So you have to, there's a list of questions. The same person asks the same question in the same words to every candidate. But based on what you say, they can then have a conversation with you. And that conversation can take a radical left turn.
Yeah, yeah.
So you do have the ability to affect the outcome of the interview. If you just let them ask their standard questions and you give them give them 3-word answers, then well, that may work or may not. But you can throw out enough lures. Again, if you research the panel and you have an idea of what they're interested in, you can probably distract them. You can probably throw them some raw meat over here.
Throw them arguing. That's a really good thing.
But yeah, if you're in trouble, just trying to get them arguing. But if you're trying to make them hire you, then use one of those questions to throw something out that's going to make them go, "Oh, tell me more about it."
Do you know how to process radio infantry data? Yes, is a really bad answer. Yes, I'm amazing at it is also a bad answer. Yes, I've processed data from the compact array from ASCAP, and I've been involved in this, that, and the other. And then they'll ask the follow-up questions.
And
so what did you do with that?
And I'm really interested in learning about these 3 things that you want to get into.
Yeah,
I haven't done those, but I want to do them.
Yeah, that's
so
good.
Stuff like that is just yeah.
So I need to say this. I can see that the selection panels are avoiding these days these type of questions. Nick may remember when he was interviewed for this job that we had a sets of questions which is completely outside of the field, which was deliberate. And I guess these days you're not getting the questions in that. You may remember your question about the fog from the.
Oh yeah. There's Yeah,
from
the
the volcanoes.
volcanoes. Yeah.
Or I get a
Yeah.
question about, I don't know, what kind of rare minerals we are selling to US or these type of things, which is actually designed for awareness. If you are employing someone on a higher level, you really want to, see. So I'll give you the statistics. Nick was the only guy who actually knew at the time why we have a problem with the plains and the volcanoes, right? All other 4 guys said, what? No, I don't know, never heard about that. Which again, it's awareness, daily awareness. Guys, again, you are a PhD, you are a doctors, okay, at that stage. So you should be on a level of picking up general knowledge on a much higher level outside of the specific area.
That's
The
why
first
we
thing
do the
I-
news. That's why we do the news every week.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. And why you should go to colloquia as well. I'll just say the first interview I ever did was for uni as an undergraduate. I was asked, do you fancy your sister? What? I'm sure he'd be prosecuted for that now, but I got very upset. I said, I think it's a completely inappropriate question. I don't think you should be asking me that. That was the right answer, it turned out. Let's find out what's the person you are.
Yes.
And
Yeah, it was a different time.
I would advocate. That's okay. Okay. In the interview, everybody's nervous, especially if you have a first interview, and the panel don't mind that. If you're a bit nervous, they'll give you latitude. They'll ask you, offer you a glass of water, whatever. So don't worry if you're nervous. Everybody's nervous. It's only if you're paralysed. I've seen it occasionally. People can't even remember their name, and I don't know what you do then. Try to practice more so you're not paralysed. Try to make eye contact with interviewers. Use each question as an opportunity to sell yourself. So if they say, can you process radio astronomy data? Don't say yes. It's an opportunity for you to tell them how good you are at it. And they're not the enemy. They're trying to see if you're the right person for the job. So your job is to help them. It's not to fight them. It's to give them the information they need. Oh yeah. What are your strengths and weaknesses? If they ask you, actually, I don't think anybody uses that nowadays. It's a bit passé, but don't give them any real weaknesses, for God's sake. Usually people try to think of something, but prepare it in advance.
Well, the common one nowadays is to name your struggles during PhD.
Okay,
So,
yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's a good one because you can say how you overcame them.
yeah.
The way I've heard it is what they're really asking is when did you come up against a struggle and how did you overcome it? They treat the question like that.
Yeah, that's right. And it's
rather
really
than
good if
admitting
you
to a bunch of stuff.
come up with a real thing and describe how you overcame it. That's really helpful. You
Yes.
said something.
There is quite a lot of theory behind how to perform at the interview. I really believe that for astronomy type of interview, what I'm going to say is not that applicable. But in general, job applications, when you're going for an interview, they are, humans are, strange. What kind of color you wear?
Oh yeah.
I don't know, your hairstyle, I don't know, your shirt, and this and that and here and there. They're trying to pick the small things, the way how you look, which is understandable, but again, that should not decide it. So for an interview, trying not to upset your interview panel. And some people believe that, upsetting, by dressing, I don't know, red tie would be upsetting. Again, you really would need to know who will be sitting on that panel, trying to please, with small things. Oh yes, I've heard the other day, and that was really funny, which is nothing to do with interview, slightly. The famous Donald Trump wears a huge amount of perfume, so you can smell him actually coming, before even he comes into a room, right? Which is a sort of sending a message, of, here I am. Is a bad example of what you should do. I'm not saying you should wear the perfume, but this is, the tricks, which I'm hearing around.
Well, most of the interviews nowadays are on Zoom. So
Yeah.
Don't worry, Zoom are introducing smell-o-vision, so you can just click the mouse and
How you smell at the moment, right? What's your natural smell? Option A, B, C, D, E, and F.
At the end, they'll always ask if you have any questions. Make sure you've got some. It really sounds awful when people say, no, I've got no questions. You've got to have some questions, but make sure they're good ones. Actually, I'm not sure working from home is a good one. But I'm very keen to continue with my PhD project. Will I have time to do this? And the answer might be no, which is good in very few, or it might be 10%. And actually, when someone says 10%, well,
that means do it on your own time.
yeah, that's right. But you can do it, that's the point. And
Yeah.
often people have 10%, they turn out no end of papers, and the next job is a Jensky Fellowship or something.
It's
Good
a
one.
very good time to ask about the other people you'll be working with. This is where you show that you understand the institution and the people. So if someone's working on a particular instrument that's in some stage of being built, say, ask them, I was reading up about this, where's that up to? The sort of information that you only get by word of mouth. That's a great.
That's a really good one, Luke. I was trying to think of a really good example. That's a much better example than any of mine. Is it okay for me to apply for JDRFC time? In other words, you're enthusiastic, you want to go beyond the job, you're ambitious, and are they going to let you be ambitious? But your example is better, Luke.
University websites and I think other websites are often out of date. So is this person still there? Are they still working? Are they, I talked to this person and they said this, show that you really want to be there and you're going to fit in from day one.
Yeah. But you don't want to ask about somebody who's just been dismissed for some awful crime.
Yeah, you might put your foot in it, but good luck.
I think some examples there. I had this conversation with somebody who was applying for a job in Perth. They really wanted to work in Sydney. Keep that to yourself, because that might knock some points off. If they offer you the job, then you can ask them that question, but don't ask that in the interview, because that will lose you points. Anything else? Anything else you need in the interview?
Yeah, I think the what is it? Your fourth bullet is a really important one.
So
it's your fourth one about, you are trying. Is anyone who's been on a panel will tell you it's actually you think it's easy. It's easy. You just wander in, but it's actually not. I'm not asking for sympathy, but it's tough, and make it easy on people.
Yep.
Make it easy on the panel. And if you're the right person for the job, then help them see that. If you're the wrong person for the job, well, try to make them think that you might be a good alternative.
Yeah,
I got a tip. Open Zoom early because it's going to choose that day and time to update. Guaranteed. Happened to me for an interview last year.
That's right. Yeah.
Corollary to that is you don't want to be in a job that is not going to suit you.
Yeah, but if you're really the wrong person for the job, then actually it's best all round if everybody says thanks but no thanks.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
After the interview, ask for feedback. People are really bad. People on interview panels, as someone was saying this morning, that they don't even tell you whether you got it or not sometimes, which is, I think it's criminal. HR departments, they usually have the job of notifying people of the outcome, but they don't always. And otherwise it's the chair of the interview panel whose job it is. But people don't often give feedback. If you ask people for feedback, they will often be really helpful. And I'm talking about really detailed feedback. Well, in the interview, we really like the way you answered this, but you really fluffed on that question, and you really need to prepare on that for your next interview. And that'd be really helpful, and that's sometimes, not always. But suddenly when people ask me feedback, because I keep quite detailed notes when I'm interviewing, and I'm very happy to give people feedback.
What's your experience in that?
I didn't get any meaningful feedback in a way from the interviews.
Did you ask for it?
Yes, on a couple of
Okay.
occasions. it would be you were our second choice, but the other person had like 2 postdocs in the same field, so we
That's
chose
fair
him.
enough.
Right.
Yeah.
The other one, which was strange, I've got sent. So I had an interview. 2 days later, I've got sent a PDF with history of the group and research of the group, and I thought that okay, this is the job. And 5 hours later, they send me, "Oh, you are the second one. This is the person who got it." But like, if they cancel, you will be the next one to get the offer. I'm like, why did I get? So yeah, I asked a few times, but never actually got.
Oh, okay. That's sad.
So there is another thing which is very controversial at the moment going for jobs. There are jobs and jobs. What Ray is talking about here is the first level of jobs after the PhD. Immediately after the PhD, it's postdocs, and after the postdocs,
Postdocs.
another postdoc, and the more postdocs. So there is a particular culture, and I think I've heard this first time from you in one of your job application, is that they ask you to solve the problem. Okay.
Yeah, but that wasn't for a postdoc.
That was for a job.
Yeah, with
Still in computing and in astronomy, right?
yeah, so that's with Macquarie computer, what is AO.
So apparently there is a culture in that given areas, that specific area where they ask you a question, solve the problem. And it's quite a lot of known in other job applications when they ask you a very extensive questions, how would you solve that? How would you do that? Again, I'll use my very recent experience from a few weeks ago, when I was asked the question, how you will decide which person should go from this department, what basis you want to do. So my point here is I'm not sure about the morality of these questions when basically they suck out your intelligence. This is like asking.
This is the equivalent of the capture, where it's like click on all the squares with the buses to help train our
I have a different
computer vision
example.
models.
If I'm working as a chef, right? And I'm applying for a job in a given, restaurant, I have my own secrets, right?
Yeah, but it's reasonable to say, how do you make a bechamel sauce or something?
Well, I'm not gonna, say, how
Well,
I'm gonna make a special sauce.
Yeah, but
because
no,
that's-
it's bechamel sauce. That's a standard thing. Everybody knows how to do it.
my bechamel sauce is the best. That's the reason why you're hiring me, of course.
But you just have to do the generic answer. I think it's a reasonable question. So I've certainly done that in.
This is not like question answer. So you get a project to work on 7 days or a month,
Yes.
and you solve the project, and then based on everyone got like similar projects, and based on the best solution, they choose the candidate.
Okay.
In industry, like
I was definitely using
programming,
free labor.
computing,
Yes. That's the point.
sometimes everyone will be paid for a month, and then you present your solution, and then
Okay.
they decide who they hire.
Yeah. All right. That's right. Yeah, I've done a much simpler, just in a interview, saying, you've got this image, you've got diffraction rings. What do you think's causing it? Something like that.
That's a fair question.
Yeah, and it's just check that the people really do have the expertise that they say they have.
Yeah, but for that one, I had like 4 rounds of interviews, and the last one was like, you have 2 projects to solve for like 7 days, and then
Wow.
And by the time of 4 rounds, they lost the funding.
Yeah. Any other comments? I think that's my last slide. Yes, it is. Yeah. Okay.
Very good, Ray. I'll make sure that one goes up in the YouTube channel. So
All right.
if anyone needs to look at that later on.
Yeah, actually, I should have added other people's comments to the PowerPoint, actually. Make it more easy.
That's in the recording.
Sorry, I have a question just about the jobs advertising on LinkedIn. Is that like the requirement? Sometimes it's very high and you feel they're asking someone to give him a job, but they're looking for someone from the space. It's not from the Earth. According to the requirements or the qualifications they are looking for. So is that normal or there's something happened there?
Okay, let me explain this. So again, I've seen a lot back in the days when the jobs were advertised where in the not the Australian
Job register.
No, the Sydney Morning Herald. It was a huge.
Yeah, that's right.
There was basically several big pages, for job.
Absolutely stupid, yeah.
What was that? That was actually advertisement, not the real job. So in a LinkedIn, what you're gonna see is a sort of a job, not job advertisement. You will see a company advertising themselves by posting these jobs because it's a much cheaper than advertise, for them. So this was a lot of people are reporting that the jobs over the LinkedIn are actually advertisement, not the real jobs. Of course, not all, but there is a significant bit in all that.
But also, you'll sometimes see that there will be a list of requirements for a job which seems just way too much. It's crazy. And one of the reasons for this is that if you don't list a specific thing in the job advertisement, you can't hire on it. So, for example, or depends a bit on where you are, but this is certainly true in a lot of places. If, for example, I get 3 good applicants and they've all got really good Python coding and they've all got really good data analysis skills, and it turns out that one of them also has another skill that would be really helpful. So, for example, actually really knows control system programming, which would be really helpful for me to have for somebody who's working on compact array. But if I haven't put that in the job ad as a selection criterion, then I can't say, I'm going to hire this person because they've got this thing as well. Because then somebody from HR will say, you can't hire on that because it's not a criterion. So it actually makes sense to have a lot of criteria.
They usually list as optional.
So sometimes people will break it down into necessary
always has 2
and
categories,
optional.
essential criteria.
But a lot of jobs will just put everything down there. And the point is that if you only hit a few of those boxes, you can still apply. Because actually, the chances are if there's anybody who has all of those things, they're probably not going to take that job because they've already got a better job.
Yeah.
So it's okay. It seems weird and intimidating. Apply anyway. As long as you've got something.
Thank you.
And I guess my perspective on the whole thing would be that as the author of Ecclesiastes said, the battle is not always to the strong, the race is not always to the swift, but time and chance happen to them all. There's a huge amount of luck here. But as the equally wise Yogi Berra said, the battle is not always to the swift, to the strong, and the race is not always to the swift, but that's the way to bet. So what you're doing here, there's a huge amount of luck, but all of the things that we're talking about here, they improve your odds. So this is not about if you do these things, you get the job. This is all about this will improve your odds. And in the end, it is very much, there's a huge amount of luck, and you know, getting the job or not getting the job doesn't necessarily mean you're better in some way than somebody else or worse. It just means they were a better fit. And there was a huge amount of luck there. But there are things you can do to improve your odds and not to break things. And that's what this is about. Or at least that's my opinion. But what do I know?
Sounds right.
Also, as William Goldman says, nobody knows anything.
There is another path which I would really like strongly all of you to think about that. And that path is create your own job. And then silence.
Harder to do in Australia than in the US.
Harder, but not impossible.
What do you mean by that?
Well, let me give an ideal situation. During the PhD, you are doing fine, excellent. You discover A, B, C, D, something big. If that is a big, that will be the way to push. Well, the best example is Kieran. He's not in here today, but I think he's the best example. Just look, what the Kieran did. If Kieran is around, I could actually dissect the way how he got the job. It's basically, he's right time, right person, right place, with the skills, and he lobbied for that. I'm using a particular word which I'm very certain lobbied for that for a very, very long period of time, which is again a skill for itself.
Yeah. The other thing is if you discover really something really good, it's worth writing ARC discovery grants with a postdoc employed. Now you can't actually write that grant, or you can write it. It's got to have your supervisor's name as being the PI, and so that's happened to somebody close to me, and it's very successful if you've got a strong PhD project and based discovery grant on it.
But then again, that's all. Yeah. Good. Look, we have actually 15 minutes. If this is all